the 1953 top set, and the stories behind the men. In this series, I unpack the stories of the men on the cards of the 1953 Topps baseball set. Most cards in the set are called commons by the hobby, but the men on the cards are anything but common. Cards 16 through 20. Harry Lowry, card number 16. Harry Lee Lowry was born in Culver City, California on August 27, 1917, and attended Alexander Hamilton High School in Los Angeles. He was nicknamed as a child by a family member, remarking on Lowry's small size, said, "Why, he's no bigger than a peanut." While Lowry was growing up in Greater Los Angeles, he worked as a child actor on Our Gang comedies. He was credited for his screen role as a ball player nicknamed Peanuts in the movie The Winning Team, a 1952 biography of Grover Cleveland Alexander that starred Ronald Reagan in that title role. Additionally, he appeared in Pride of the Yankees, 1942, a biography about the life of Lou Gehrig. He later appeared in the Monty Stratton Story, 1949, and the Jackie Robinson Story, 1950, as ball players, but had no speaking roles. Lowry's grandfather owned a nearby ranch where the youngster lived during much of his childhood. Many of the popular Our Gang comedies were filmed there, and Peanuts occasionally appeared as an extra in them. At Hamilton High School in Los Angeles, Lowry earned 10 letters in baseball, football, and track and field. He ran the 100 dash in 10 seconds. In his final high school football game, he scored 6 touchdowns on runs of 65 yards or more. He made his major league debut with the Cubs while they were in St. Louis playing the Cardinals on April 14, 1942, as a late-inning outfield replacement. On April 15, 1944, Lowry entered military service with the Army at Fort Custer, Michigan, home of the Military Police Officers Candidate School. Lowry was a player-manager with the military police baseball team during the summer of 1944. His military service did not last long, as he received a medical discharge after 6 months on October 13, 1944, due to weak knees. He set a Major League Baseball record with 7 consecutive pinch hits in 1952, and the following season made 21 pinch hits to fall one shy of the then Major League Baseball all-time record. Lowry was selected as an All-Star in 1946. In 1981, he retired, ending a 17-year coaching career and a remarkable 43-year professional baseball career that also included 10 years as a minor league player, 13 as a major league player, and 3 as a minor league manager. Peanuts. Lowry died of congestive heart failure on July 2, 1986, in Inglewood, California. He was 68. In the winter of 1943-44, Lowry was among 12 big leaguers who were put under investigation by baseball commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis for supposedly violating their major league contract. The small amount of money that the players received was inconsequential. They had appeared in games with black players, and Landis was really interested in keeping baseball segregated. Landis never got to enforce his rules because he died in November of 1944. I was the player that plunked Reagan with a ball between the eyes as he was heading for second. We used a cotton ball, and when I hit him, I shouted, "Look out!" But the director said cut. He figured I would get an extra $350 for having a speaking role. So we reshot the scene, and after I hit Reagan, I had to look sad and keep my face down as Reagan was sprawled on the ground. In his baseball career, Lowry played every position except pitcher and catcher. Though fairly short in stature, he played first base for 6 innings in one game with the Phillies in 1955. An excellent pinch hitter, he hit .500 in that capacity for the Cardinals in 1952. The same season, he broke a major league record held by Ty Cobb and has since eclipsed by Dave Philly and Rusty Staub with 7 consecutive pinch hits. In 1953, he had 21 pinch hits and a .344 average off the bench. Lowry was the last Cub to have scored a run in a World Series game, Game 7, 1945, until Chris Bryant scored a run in Game 2 in 2016. Billy Hitchcock, card number 17. William Clyde Hitchcock was born on July 31, 1916 in Inverness, Alabama. He appeared in 703 games over 9 years with 5 American League teams. After 18 years as a coach-manager with the Baltimore Orioles and Atlanta Braves, As well as a scout, he became an executive in minor league baseball, serving as president of the Double-A Southern League from 1971 to 1980. His older brother, Jimmy Hitchcock, played briefly for the 1938 Boston Bees. Hitchcock, who was a lieutenant in the Army Reserves, got the call to report for active duty in early August of 1942. He served in the Army Air Force and advanced to the rank of major by the end of World War II, earning the Bronze Star for service in the Pacific, along with 3 battle stars. He had broken in with the Detroit Tigers in 1942 before serving his country and was discharged from service on February 19, 1946. After spending 3 years in service to his country, he would resume his major league career from 1946 to 1953. Hitchcock became president of the Southern League in August of 1971. During his presidency, the league added new teams, expanded its playoffs, and introduced split-season play. Other improvements included stadium refurbishments and efforts to make the league more family-friendly. Attendance figures rose dramatically during his tenure from 333,500 in 1971 to over 1.7 million in 1980. The Southern League Championship Trophy is named after Hitchcock, and in 1980 it was presented with the King of Baseball award given by Minor League Baseball. He stepped down from the presidency in 1980. In addition to his baseball resume, Hitchcock also made a name for himself in college football and golf. As an all-conference tailback, he led Auburn to its first bowl game, a 7-7 tie against Villanova on January 1, 1937. Later in life, he established the Billy Hitchcock Golf Tournament in his alma mater. In recognition of his contribution to the school, Auburn renamed his renovated baseball stadium Hitchcock Field in 2003. Also in that year, Baseball America named it the best college baseball facility in the country. Billy Hitchcock died on April 9, 2006 in Opelika, Alabama. He was 89 years old. Billy Hitchcock spent over 40 years in professional baseball as a player, manager, scout, coach, and minor league executive. Hitchcock was inducted into the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame in 1975, joining his brother Jimmy, who was part of the class of 1969. Billy Hitchcock earned his business administration degree while studying at Auburn University. In this collage of pictures, you'll see Billy Hitchcock getting an autograph from President Kennedy. Ted Lipsio, card number 18. Ted Lipsio was born on July 28, 1929 in Utica, New York. Lipsio played both football and baseball at Proctor High School, but baseball was his future. He played in both amateur and semi-pro ball throughout the area, often under assumed names. After his senior year in high school, he played for at least 4 teams, an American Legion team, a couple of town teams, and a semi-pro team in St. Albans, Vermont, teaming with some college players from Villanova University. In fact, his teammates made a few phone calls to the Philadelphia school to try to land him a spot on their college team. Lipsio didn't end up at Villanova, but rather attended Seton Hall University. After his graduation from Seton Hall in 1951, Lipsio signed with the Boston Red Sox for a reported $60,000. He was generally a utility infielder and would enjoy his best season in 1956 when he hit 15 home runs in just 83 games. But let's rewind to his first day in the bigs in April of 1952. Ted Lipsio began his major league career by warming up with Hall of Fame member Ted Williams. He exchanged pleasantries with the President of the United States, got his first hit, and stole his first base. Lipsio was once asked how that ranked among his baseball memories. A smiling Ted explained, "I would have to say that was the most memorable day in baseball." Lipsio was a regular member of a starting lineup that changed often in the first 2 months in his rookie year. In May and June, Jimmy Pearsall, who was playing mostly shortstop, exhibited the symptoms of the mental health illness that would take him out of the lineup for the rest of the year. Pearsall's situation was particularly important to Lipsio because he and Jimmy were roommates, as well as the early season Keystone combination. Lipsio was one of the only few Red Sox players and staff members who recognized the seriousness of Pearsall's illness. And on more than one occasion, Lipsio had to defend his roommate from other teammates who were threatening to physically attack the troubled Pearsall. Ted Lipsio died on December 11, 2019, in Dedham, Massachusetts at the age of 90. Ted Lipsio was inducted into Seton Hall's Hall of Fame in 1973 and into the Greater Utica Sports Hall of Fame in 1990. Lipsio retired from baseball after the 1961 season. He soon became vice president of sales with St. Johnsbury Trucking Company, which was a New England-based trucking company. At age 85, he was still an active consultant on transportation issues for Corsair Logistics, Incorporated. Lipsio is mentioned in Jimmy Pearsall's book, Fear Strikes Out, as his roommate during the 1952 season, when Pearsall had to be hospitalized with mental issues. Lipsio often saved Pearsall from being beaten up by his own teammates. In 1967, Ted Lipsio joined with Dom DiMaggio and a number of Boston businessmen to help form the Bo Sox Club, the official booster club of the Boston Red Sox. He was president of the Bo Sox Club in 1970 and 1971. Lipsio reported feeling fortunate to have been able to play with and become friends with one of the greatest players ever, Ted Williams. In Lipsio's first spring training, Ted Williams singled him out to be his new warm-up partner, and while they played together, Ted Williams was always encouraging the younger Ted to become a better hitter. The only thing I prayed for was to be a major league player, and it came true, Lipsio told the Observer-Dispatch in a 2016 article. I didn't crash any records, but I played 10 years in the major leagues, and that's something to be proud of. On the photo on the top right, you'll see a picture of Jimmy Pearsall on the left, and next to him, second person in, is Ted Lipsio. Mel Parnell, card number 19. Melvin Parnell was born on June 13, 1922 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Parnell spent his entire 10-year career with Boston from 1947 to 1956. He was 17 years old, fresh out of S.J. Peters High School in New Orleans when he signed with the Boston Red Sox. His high school also featured future major leaguers George Strickland, Howie Pollitt, Raymond Campo, Ray Yoakum, and Lou Klein. Although many of his boyhood friends and high school teammates signed with the St. Louis Cardinals, Parnell chose to sign as an amateur free agent with Boston in 1940. Parnell was once quoted, "My high school team, 7 of us signed professional, 6 with the Cardinals. I was the only one who didn't." After 2 successful years in the minor leagues in 1941 and 1942, Parnell opted to enlist in the Army Air Corps due to World War II. From 1943 to 1945, Parnell served in the United States Army Air Force. He flew on B-29s while stationed at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama, but never saw overseas combat. Parnell would climb to the rank of staff sergeant during his service. At the conclusion of the war, Parnell returned to professional baseball, where he played 1 full season of minor league baseball in 1946. Parnell made his major league debut on April 20th, 1947 in Washington, a 4-1 loss in front of 28,433 people. In 1954, he was hit by a pitch, breaking his ulna bone. That injury would never heal properly, leading to his retirement following the 1956 season. He only made 18 appearances in 1954 and 13 in 1955. In 1956, he made 21 appearances with 20 starts, including the memorable performance against the White Sox on July 14th. He would no-hit the Chicago White Sox at Fenway Park, winning 4-0. It would become the first Red Sox no-hitter since 1923. Parnell's career would come to a premature end after the 1956 season due to a torn muscle nerve in his pitching arm that was the result of the hit pitch that I mentioned earlier. He went under an elbow surgery to try to fix the issue. It is said that if the Tommy John surgery had been available to him at that time, he might have had another 4 to 5 years in his career. It would take 52 years until another Red Sox lefty would throw a no-hitter, a feat accomplished by John Lester in 2008. Parnell still holds the Red Sox career mark for left-handed pitchers in games started, innings, and victories. After a long battle with cancer, Parnell died in New Orleans on March 20th, 2012 at 89 years of age. Parnell was a member of Boston's radio and television announcing crew from 1965 to 1968 and the Chicago White Sox crew in 1969. He called the last out of the final regular season game of the 1967 Red Sox impossible dream. The southpaw became known as the winningest left-hander in Red Sox history with a 123-75 record and a 3.50 ERA. His career win total ranks fourth in team history, behind only Cy Young, Roger Clemens, and Tim Wakefield. Parnell owns the organization's southpaw records for games started at 232 and innings pitched at 1,752 and two-thirds innings. Parnell once said about his no-hitter, "On that particular day, I had a very good screwball. My slider was working good. That gave me pitches that I could work in and out on hitters. I pretty much was able to get the ball right where I wanted it with each pitch, and things fell in line for me." Parnell was a two-time All-Star selection and the American League pitcher for the 1949 All-Star team. After his playing career ended, Parnell managed the New Orleans Pelicans and a series of Red Sox farm clubs. On the back of his 1953 Topps baseball card, it says, "Mel is an instructor in the New Orleans Recreation Department during the winter." Parnell started the 1953 season with a 12-5 record before the All-Star break. New York Yankees manager Casey Stengel left Parnell off the All-Star roster. He followed the All-Star snub by going 5-0 with 4 shutouts against those Yankees in the second half to finish the season 21-8 with a 3.06 ERA and a career-high 136 strikeouts. "He was known as the Yankee Killer," said Mel Parnell Jr. about his father's domination of the Yankees. The snub was a big controversy in Boston. Everyone knew that Stengel did it deliberately because he played for the Red Sox. Adversity dogged Parnell in his later years. He suffered a stroke, had some heart trouble, and beat back cancer, on top of which he lost his house and 2 others he owned to Hurricane Katrina. Fortunately, he was well insured and took a very philosophical approach to it. As he told the Associated Press in 2005, "It could be worse." Parnell was inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in 1963 and the Boston Red Sox Hall of Fame in 1997. I love this picture of him in snow skis. I think it gives Winter League play a whole different meaning. Hank Thompson, card number 20. Henry Thompson was born in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma by some accounts. In an interview once, he claimed to have been born in Muskogee, Oklahoma. In either case, he was born on December 8, 1925. He was 17 years old when he first began playing pro ball with the Kansas City Monarchs. In March of 1944, Thompson entered the United States Army. He was a machine gunner with the Combat Engineering Infantry Group at the famed Battle of the Bulge. A few years later, he was nicknamed Ametralladora, Spanish for machine gun, by Cuban fans while he was playing in the Cuban Winter League. Sergeant Thompson was discharged on June 20, 1946, and immediately returned to the Monarchs, who were in the midst of capturing the league title. In 1946, after the season, Thompson joined the Satchel Paige All-Stars, who barnstormed the country against Bob Feller's All-Stars in separate private luxury planes. Thompson claimed his share for 17 days' work was an amazing $7,500. With the start of the Major League season in 1947, history was made when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier and joined the Dodgers. Thompson would become the 3rd black player to join the Major Leagues. Thompson played his first game with the Browns on July 17, 1947, integrating the Browns lineup 2 days before Willard Brown made his debut as the 2nd black player on the Browns. The following day, July 20th, Thompson played second base and Brown played center field for the Browns in a game against the Boston Red Sox. That game marked the first time that 2 black players appeared in the same Major League lineup. Later, in an August 9th doubleheader against the Cleveland Indians, Thompson and Indians outfielder Larry Doby became the first black players of opposing teams to appear on the field at the same time. On July 4, 1949, the New York Giants called Thompson up from the Giants Farm Club. He received $2,500 over the league minimum of $5,000. By signing with the Giants, Thompson earned a unique place in baseball history. He was the first black baseball player to play in both the National and American leagues. Subsequently, he repeated the same first many times. On July 8, 1949, Thompson and Monty Irvin became the first black players for the Giants. Thus, Thompson became the only player to participate in breaking the segregation barrier on 2 different teams. Another first occurred when Thompson batted against Dodger pitcher Don Newcombe in the same season, becoming the first black batter to face a black pitcher in the majors. And in 1951, after playing a strong role in the Giants' drive to the pennant, Thompson and Irvin teamed with Willie Mays in the World Series to form the first all-black outfield in the majors. On August 16, 1950, Hank Thompson became the first player since 1939 to hit 2 inside-the-park home runs in one game, a feat which would not be duplicated again until 1972. Throughout his playing career, Thompson battled with alcoholism. By 1956, it dramatically took its toll on him. He became so unproductive the Giants sent him to the minor leagues late in the 1956 season, and he retired from baseball in 1957. Hank Thompson died on September 30, 1969, at the age of 43, following a seizure, 13 years to the day of his last game in the majors. On his way to the Kansas City Monarchs' 1948 spring training camp in San Antonio, Texas, tragedy struck Hank Thompson when he stopped in Dallas to visit his sister. According to Thompson, he and his brother-in-law were in a local bar when they ran into Buddy Crowe, who had been a Sandlot teammate of Hank's in Dallas. An argument ensued with Crowe when he reportedly started giving Thompson a hard time about his short stay in the major leagues with St. Louis. Crowe was also trying to force his affections on his sister. The argument escalated to a point of a drunk Crowe pulling a knife on Hank Thompson. According to Thompson, he had seen Crowe do severe injury to a man in a bar fight in years past. Thompson, who was known to have carried a gun, pulled the weapon, fired 3 bullets into Crowe's chest, killing him. He turned himself in to the police the next day and was charged with murder. Thompson pleaded not guilty and was released on bond. 2 years later, the police ruled the incident self-defense and the case was dismissed. According to those who knew him on a personal basis, said it significantly impacted him psychologically. His demeanor changed and he was said to have been a different man. He went from a happy-go-lucky attitude to drinking heavily on a regular basis. In an interview that Hank Thompson gave in 1965, he was quoted as saying, 17 years later and I still haven't gotten over this. After leaving baseball, Thompson was met with a series of difficulties. He became a cab driver in New York, but following a divorce was convicted of armed robbery in Texas. And in 1963 was sentenced to 10 years in prison. In 1967, however, he was paroled after a few years. One source reported his crime was knocking off a liquor store, then going to a nearby bar, the Matinee Club, and buying everyone drinks. In 1968, he moved to Fresno, California, and became a city playground director. In the summer of 1969, he left that position, possibly to seek a job with the National League. But those plans did not have a chance to materialize before his unexpected death after a seizure. In a prison interview, Hank Thompson made the following statements about his intentions to change his life. When I get out, I'm going to have to walk down streets with liquor stores and bars, and I'll have to make a choice. Walk past them and live, or walk into one and run wild again. They say life begins at 40. It better for me. Hank Thompson had star quality all over him, said Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro League Baseball Museum. He was an outstanding player in the Negro Leagues. I try to help the youngsters by pointing to my life. I tell them how easily and quickly a man can fall from the limelight and get into trouble if he isn't careful. I tell them how easy it is to go the other way, Hank Thompson said once. When talking to young people, Hank Thompson always gave them the following advice. Number 1, get advice about money, how to save it, and how to invest it. Number 2, live a clean life. Number 3, stay away from those good time people who pretend to be your friends. Number 4, stay away from liquor. Number 5, stay healthy. And number 6, baseball is the cleanest sport we have, so treat it decent. I have to wonder about the picture on the upper right. It almost looks like Hank Thompson is contemplating his life and trying to make decisions. On the bottom right, you have a picture of Hank Thompson on the far right, with Willie Mays in the middle and Monty Irvin on the left. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening, and I hope you'll stay tuned for the next series.